Well, more on that charity effort as it continues, but let's get an update too in the rest of the day's news now with Charlotte.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning. Tributes have been paid to Dr. Karen Wu, a British medic who was killed by the Taliban. She was one of 8 foreign aid workers murdered. And from one performer to another, a 3-year-old Nepalese girl has been recognised by the Guinness Book of Records as the world's youngest singer. Atathi Casey, who is known for her ability to hit all the right notes, has already released an album. It's not unusual for children in Nepal to sing, but experts have been surprised at how talented she is. Let's have a little listen. Angelic singing there.
Yeah, I'm surprised as well, but not in the right way. Thank you very much indeed. Let's take a look at the morning. Very good morning. You're watching Sunrise this Sunday morning. We're all in the pink. Yeah, colour coordinate. How about that? Very impressed.
You'll have to stop phoning up early.
Indeed, yeah. With you through till 10 o'clock this morning, if you're lucky. All the papers to come with Henry, Charlotte with the rest of the news bulletin as well. But first, let's update you. We'll get more on the relief operation in Pakistan later this morning, but let's get the rest of the day's news to you now with Charlotte.
Thanks, Mark. The bodies of 8 foreign aid workers killed by the Taliban will be taken to Kabul today to be formally identified. Tribute.
But it does depend on what sort of surprise you like, I think. Maybe it's lost in the Nepalese translation, I don't know.
You might not be rushing out to buy that album,
no.
I'm thinking.
Thank you very much indeed. Not featuring on a radio station near you anytime soon.
Is this a regular feature of this
It might well be, actually, yeah.
Last week we had another one, didn't we?
Yeah.
We were all trying to remember the name of the singing nun.
Be on the lookout for you, yes, indeed, for next week, a musical interlude. Yeah. Right, the Express on a familiar beat on personal finance matters.
Well, it's a good point. They say banks are stealing holiday cash. That's their heading. Greedy banks were last night accused of robbing millions of families by charging them extortionate fees to access their money while on holiday. And of course, with people going abroad on their holidays in this month, unless they're having staycations, consumer watchdogs hit out at the hidden charges for using cash machines, which in some cases can add up to £100 to the bill for a family's summer break. In other words, the charges if you're overseas, using a card in the wall, presumably, in the hole in the wall, are greater than they are when you're at home.
What's a bit of a sour taste here, where they had about the bankers who've been spotted and returning profits by drinking champagne and frolicking with scantily clad burlesque dancers. Not that they're bitter or anything.
Exactly.
Maybe that's what you spend your money on your foreign holiday, I don't know. Right.
Spot the statesman in the Sunday Times. Cameron is a poorer statesman than Tony Blair. Never thought we'd live to hear that. They have a survey there. State of the parties: Conservative 42, Labour 36, Lib Dem 13, others 9. And then to the other questions: is David Cameron a good international statesman? Yes, 30%. No, 43%. But he's better than Gordon Brown, whose highest was 27%. But by 41% to 30%, people say he'll never be as good as Blair, despite the damage done to the former Prime Minister's reputation by the Iraq War.
And is this off the back of those sort of gaffes, as they were called, on the various sort of comments he made publicly, or he calls plain speaking?
Well, exactly. And of course, you're speaking of the gaffe. I mean, take the one about Gaza, when he said Gaza shouldn't be, you know, a prison camp. Well, a lot of people interpreted that as solely an attack on the Israelis. But of course, it's as much down to Hamas and their attitude there. Sure, of course. Yeah. So it cuts both ways in that. We move to
Observer.
The Observer, a top GP. That's the story that Charlotte had there in the news. And this is Britain's top GP, Professor Steve Field. He criticises, there's a long list here, Professor, parents, mothers-to-be, the very overweight, smokers and drinkers, for damaging their own health or their children's through irresponsible behaviour. And he also makes it clear that he doesn't want people to be left to make lifestyle changes on their own. Those who seek to alter their behaviour, he says, need NHS continuing and government help. So he goes on to say, this is an exact quote from him: "Please don't take offence if GPs tell you to lose weight or stop smoking or drinking. You need to face facts and take responsibility. Support is out there and it could save your life, and save the NHS a fortune.
Yeah, we're speaking to Professor Steve Field a little later on, but I mean, it's a sore point with some being lectured to on the way that they, run their lives from as they see it, the nanny state.
Yeah, especially as people are asked to take responsibility for their own actions in other areas. You know, I suppose his point is that there's a certain part of the population group that is grossly overweight and ignoring the danger signs.
Yeah. OK. Kelly, death in the Mail. I mean, this is still unresolved in many people's minds.
Well, there are now, according to the Mail, new fears on Kelly death as detective admits there was very little blood. They do it as a news story, and then inside, which we wouldn't have time to go into in detail, there's the full interview spread over 2 pages. But he is Detective Constable Graham Coe. He was the first to arrive on the scene after the body of the weapons expert was discovered. He was left alone with the corpse for nearly an hour. And he reveals, quote, there was not much blood, if any, on Dr. Kelly's clothes, the ground or surrounding undergrowth. This casts serious doubt on the conclusion that the scientist hemorrhaged enough blood to cause his death. Now, I remember when this happened, I don't know whether it was with yourself, but I was certainly in here, and a pathologist who used to pop into our local pub of an evening happened to be there shortly after Dr. David Kelly's death. And of course, he couldn't say for certain, but he said to me, there's something not right about that. And he's a pathologist.
Absolutely. And other issues, I mean, DC Co saying that there was a third man accompanying them when they discovered Dr. Kelly. Lord Hutton, in the Hutton inquiry, told there were only 2 men.
Yes.
I mean, all these anomalies keep popping up.
And it's why it's even more important that there be an inquest.
Shirty Harry.
Well, yes, I love this story, I really do. This is Clint Eastwood has written to George Osborne. There's the picture. Don't you look? Don't you wish that what he's saying is, "Go on, punk, make my day." Well, anyway, he said he's written to say that scrapping the United Kingdom Film Council would spark a mass exodus of US movie makers from here. He praises the vigorous support of UKFC for helping his latest project starring Matt Damon, which was made earlier this year. Clint, who's now 80, can you believe it? He said, the UKFC was instrumental in providing us the crucial information we needed to make our decision to shoot in the UK. Without such assistance, the likelihood of a London shoot would have been greatly diminished. Yeah,
the other issue, I mean, Bill Nye, Timothy Spall, others in the campaign, indicating that for every £1 of state subsidy that's gone in, £5 is generated in terms of profits. I mean, that's a pretty damn good return in anyone's book, isn't it?
But you can't go anywhere in North London now without seeing a movie being made, except if you pop across to Ireland. You can't move for film crews. They're all in there.
Because the tax breaks that they get. Henry, for the moment, thank you for that. We'll see you a bit later for a story on the pyramids, which is quite
fascinating.
Interesting. More to come on that. Well, more coming up on that relief effort, but let's get the rest of the day's news now with Charlotte.
Thanks, Mark. The bodies of 8 foreign aid workers killed by the Taliban will be taken to Kabul today to be formally identified. Tributes have been paid to... Now, Mark, I have detected an air of scepticism around you concerning this little girl's performance.
As I say, it's not unusual, as Tom Jones would say. Thank you very much.